Action Illinois. And helping to run our member meeting today, we have Armina Farhar, who's our development associate, and Sheila Sutton, our housing policy organizer. Sheila will be handling Q&A later, so feel free to reach out to her. And she also recently joined us, so look forward to having Sheila contact you kind of in the upcoming months. So first, we would like to thank our sponsors, because without that, it's hard for us to put together something like this. And our platinum sponsor this year is JP Morgan Chase and Company. Thanks, Amina. So hold on just a second. I just want to make sure I can see everything. Our gold sponsors are PNC and US Bank. Our silver sponsor is Associated Bank. And our bronze level sponsors this year are Applegate and Thornton Thompson, Blue Hub Sun, Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago, First Midwest Bank, Midland State.
Text mom, ask her what's up.
Providence Bank and Trust, State Farm Bank, Wells Fargo, and Wintrust Bank. Our partner sponsor and a great partner generally in our work is Illinois Housing Council. We also want to thank our workshop sponsors, Ameren Illinois and Midland States Bank. Please join me in thanking these great sponsors who make this conference possible. And you can also find out more information about many of them by visiting the exhibit hall in our conference Slack channel. So please check that out if you haven't already. So now I'd like to welcome and introduce one of our co-chairs, Darsonia Schweitzer from Dove Homeward Bound, and she's going to get the formal part of our meeting going. Darsonia?
Hey, good morning. I am going to call the meeting to order and introduce the executive committee. My co-chair is Carl Wolf. He is the executive director of Respond Now. Secretary is Nicole Clements, vice president of community development banking at PNC. And treasurer is Kurt Kuyawa, senior vice president at Citizens Bank.
Okay, so now, Nicole, do you mind moving us forward with the minutes? Oh, did we lose Nicole?
To approve the minutes for the membership meeting held last year. The membership meeting minutes should, I believe, be chatted out, as well as there's a link on the conference platform and in the Housing Action Illinois website. So you can access those to review. But at this point in time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last year's membership meeting. If you could either indicate a motion or chat in that you would like to make a motion, I would call for the motion.
We have a motion to approve from David Noble.
Great. And is there a second?
There was a motion to move from Laura Olvera, and then a motion to approve from David Nobleman.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And we're going to take a vote. Just a reminder that all members can vote on the minutes. And what you should be seeing now is a poll in which you can vote to adopt the 2019 member meeting minutes as presented. We'll give that just a second for everyone to vote.
We're just going to give that another 15 seconds or so.
Perfect. All right, and the motion carries. The meeting minutes have been approved. And with that, I will turn it over to Kurt Kuyawa, who is the board treasurer for the treasurer's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning. You can see for fiscal year 2019, we had gross revenue of $2,660,000 and total assets of $1.303 million, with total net assets currently at about $674,000. Our expenses for the year were roughly $2,641,000. So we had a profitable year, if you will, which is always a good thing. We have a strong cash position, as we like to have, and then we also maintain a line of credit through our primary bank, Signature Bank. I'll also note that 59% of our program funds were given to other organizations through sub-grants. That's really all I have to say at this time. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
Okay. I don't see anything in Slack, so.
Okay, well, thank you for your support as members, of course.
All right, very good. This is Carl Wolf, co-chair, to introduce the board slate for a 3-year term beginning in January of 2021. You can find the information on the candidates in your packet. And so I'd like to introduce and request a motion for these potential members. Shalonda Bedingfield from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago. Darsonia Schweitzer, Program Director at Dove Homeward Bound. Jackie Newman, Executive Director of the Springfield Housing Authority. Margaret Wooten, Vice President of Housing and Financial Empowerment at the Chicago Urban League. Laura Olvera, Director of Counseling and Education at the Community Partners for Affordable Housing. And those are for 3-year terms beginning in January 2021. And to fill a 1-year term ending in December, ending December of this 2021, John Herring, Executive of the Illinois Network of Centers for Independent Living. So I would like a motion and a second to accept those members.
So Bob Campbell had a move to approve the slate of officers, and Shelley Richardson says they second.
So I believe we're going to do a poll now again. Is that correct? Yep, you should be seeing.
And again, we're just going to give this 1 minute.
All right, and it appears that the board slate has been accepted as presented. So thank you, everybody.
Yay. I have new emojis, so I'm using them.
Very good. And we'll turn it over to Sharon.
Thanks, Carl. So, we're always excited when new and other renewing board members stay on, but we're sad when some great long-serving board members leave us, or at least leave the board. So please join me in thanking 3 board members who are leaving us. Kelly Harsh, who's with Applegate Thorne Thompson, Joyce Houghton, who's been a longtime dedicated affordable housing advocate in DuPage County, and Mary Lou Seidel with Preservation Chicago. I think we all recognize the great service that these 3 individuals have given, not just to Housing Action Illinois, but for affordable housing and for ending homelessness throughout Illinois. So if we could just and this is where I feel the most sad about being virtual, is we can't give these people the hugs and recognition, but let's try to do it virtually. So please give everyone like a clap for their service to Housing Action and to the state. Great, thank you. Then, I also wanted to just also recognize the continuing members of Housing Action's board because they haven't yet been introduced. So that's Bob Campbell of Zion Development, Dottie Johnson with Chicago Commons, David Noble with Midland States Bank, and Shelley Richardson with the Statewide Independent Living Council of Illinois. We appreciate everyone's leadership. We appreciate our members. And so I wanted to give a shout out there. Now I just wanted to do very briefly, we're going to go ahead and give, since this is our member meeting, we wanted to kind of give an overview of what we've been up to and what some of the things that are happening in the next quarter or so. And I wanted to just let folks know, as you might have, hopefully you received an invitation to complete a member survey as part of our ongoing strategic planning. We started this kind of late last year, early this year, and with the pandemic, it kind of threw our timing off. But we are engaged in strategic planning to see kind of what are we doing well, what could we be doing more of, or things that are different. So I want to thank everyone who completed the member survey and gave us their feedback. And particularly, we had 2 people who won our member survey raffle, Jerry Donaldson from the Neighbor Project and Chris Samuels from Restoration America. So thanks again for giving us your feedback. And we are always open to that. So feel free to reach out to any Housing Action Illinois staff or board member if you have ideas that you'd like to share. And now I'd like to turn it over to Bob Palmer, our policy director, to give us some highlights from our advocacy and organizing work. Bob?
Thanks, Sharon, and hello to everyone out there scanning through the participant list. I see lots of familiar names and organizations of people we work with on a regular basis. So like everyone else in this meeting and in our country and in the world really, at Housing Action Illinois, so much of our work has had to change and been transformed due to the coronavirus pandemic. We had an agenda that we were working on at the state capitol and with our partners in Washington, D.C. at the federal level prior to the onset of the pandemic. And really in mid-March, in what seems now in retrospecting like the matter of a few days, we totally switched what we were working on to responding to the pandemic to make sure that renters and homeowners and people who are homeless or people at risk of homelessness have the resources and protections they need to maintain their housing and stay safe during the pandemic. And we've been saying throughout the pandemic, a line that we and others have been saying for several years now, that healthcare is housing, and that at a time when we're all expected to stay at home, everyone more than ever deserves a safe, affordable place to be and call their home. So despite the ongoing challenges, and we've been able to secure significant resources, but we we do need more, and we're continuing to work on it. We have had some very good successes working in partnerships and coalitions with our member agencies, with government agencies, with elected officials. So I'm just briefly going to summarize a few of those. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, we did some quick outreach to the Pritzker administration with others, and we were very glad that through the Illinois Department of Human Services, they were able to allocate some of their budgetary resources and generate $6 million in funding to help shelters move people from congregate spaces where, of course, it's not safe for people to be when social distancing is required, into hotels and motels. We also worked with our partners at the National Income Housing Coalition and around the country to secure more than $12 billion for HUD in the CARES Act that went to lots of different programs, including CDBG and the money that IDA and other local governments use for rent and mortgage assistance. On the screen here on the slide, we just have a sample of one impact in Illinois that generated $118.6 million for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program that I know homeless service providers around the state are using to keep people in shelter and operate their shelters for homelessness prevention, for rapid rehousing, for street outreach, and other purposes. And now we can go to the next slide. We also had an excellent partnership with the Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund, and as well as the National Low Income Housing Coalition, both of which reached out to us because they know that we have the knowledge and experience and relationships to re-grant money to direct service providers serving people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. And so through those grants, we were able to provide $485,000 in assistance during the spring and summer to agencies around the state. And I know Kristin Faust is going to be talking about this in just a few minutes, but we worked with our champions in the General Assembly, including State Representative Delia Ramirez, who was our keynote speaker yesterday, to get significant funding. I think the highest amount in the nation from the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund to get $396 million for the Illinois Housing Development Authority that's being used to assist about 40,000 households with rent and mortgage assistance. Again, that money is great. It's not as much as we need, and we have ongoing efforts, particularly at the federal level, to get more resources through the HEROES Act. Hopefully that'll happen before the election, but if it doesn't, it's right after the election. We'll be continuing to work on that. We've done a lot of work working with Governor Pritzker's office and partners around the state to get the state of Illinois' eviction moratorium that Governor Pritzker has through an executive order. And on a monthly basis, we have been reaching out with about 25 other organizations to the governor's office to talk about the status of the moratorium and asking him to continuing to extend it. We just actually made another request for it to be extended for another 30-day period while we continue to work on securing federal housing resources. And lastly, as I stressed at the beginning, kind of everything we do is in coalition and partnership with other advocacy organizations and direct service providers, government agencies. And so just a few numbers want to share from our work during 2020. We've had more than 125 working group meetings where that's kind of where we plan and strategize and figure out what we're going to do. More than 150 relationship building meetings to kind of strengthen and build new partnerships with people around the state. And then, of course, we're regularly in touch with elected officials and government agencies, and we've had more than 100 of those meetings so far. And the year isn't even over yet, so so we're continuing to do all that work. So I'm gonna stop there. But again, everyone who's participating in our conference today, I just want to really thank you. I think most everyone participating one way or another has probably taken some action to help move this advocacy agenda forward. And I believe Willie is next, who's going to talk about our AmeriCorps Vista program.
Can y'all hear me? Sorry. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, good. So, great. I was having a little bit of trouble unmuting myself. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for that great update, Bob. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Willie Heineke. I'm the National Service Program Manager at Housing Action Illinois. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we got done this year and what we have for our goals moving forward regarding our AMERICORPS Vista program. So, Amina, could you switch it to the next slide? Right, so taking a look at last year, there's a few numbers in front of you. The first one is our recruitment for the incoming cohort, so to speak. We had 21 AMERICORPS Vista summer positions serve with us this year, which was actually the lowest amount of summer positions we've had serve with us since we've offered the summer positions to the member organizations. We have identified the main factor for this being that about 75% of the positions that went unfilled this summer were categorically unavailable due to the pandemic, and that they were working with large groups of numbers of people in person, sometimes in enclosed spaces. So that obviously was not going to happen. However, the 21 summer associates we did have served and were able to make the pandemic work for them. Even our member organizations kind of calling an audible, so to speak, and creating projects that would be feasible in the pandemic. So want to be really thankful to them. And we're also really thankful that 7 of our summer associate positions, the members that joined us through that program came on to our 22 full year positions, which is frankly a large increase in our recruitment numbers for our full year program. And we're really excited about that. I believe at this time last year, we had recruited about 13 positions. So we nearly doubled it this year, which is so exciting for so many different reasons. Those other 2 numbers you see on the screen in front of you are the impact that our AMERICORPS members who ended their terms of service in August had. They recruited nearly and managed nearly 1,000 volunteers. They raised more than $500,000 in in-kind donations. And while those numbers are impressive in them of themselves, the AMERICORPS members do so much more for the member organizations. I'm sure if you've hosted an AMERICORPS member or served with, worked alongside one, you would know how they work on larger business enhancements or system enhancements that we just can't quantify or I can explain to you in the amount of time I have right now. But really, especially for everything that's been going on, really thankful for the AMERICORPS members that got all this work done this past year. Looking forward, so we have a few goals for next year. You know, pandemic happening or pandemic ending, we still gotta keep our eyes looking forward. One thing that we wanna stride towards is achieving a better geographic distribution of our positions. Frankly, we've been recruiting well and placing positions well in the Chicagoland area, which includes those 6 collar counties around Cook County. But we would really like to see more AMERICORPS positions in our northern, central, and southern Illinois regions. And one way that we can achieve that is by having more member organizations, like all of you all who are joining us right now, apply for our program. We'll be making those applications available shortly. You'll be getting an email about it, but I can't help but plug that. We have some goals to stride towards higher recruitment rates. As I mentioned, our summer was the lowest we had thus far, at least, yeah, thus far. And our year-long positions recruited well. We want to run with that and have some goals for increasing the rate of recruitment we have, right? That's how we achieve our mission. And lastly, we just need more applications. And so what I mean by that is we need more of our member organizations to be submitting applications to host these AmeriCorps positions, and we want to be attracting more candidates. We have a few ways about doing that, but I'm not going to go into the full detail of all that. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague David to tell you about the staff update from the capacity building program. Thanks for the time, y'all.
Hello, everyone. I'm David Young I'm the Director of Capacity Building for Housing Action Illinois, along with my team, Wanda Collins, BB and Cristino, and Jennifer Pallas. And I would like to just take a brief moment to tell you some of the work that we have been doing in the last year. Our affiliate network has 32 organizations. And earlier this year, we received a $1 million HUD Housing Comprehensive Housing Counseling Award, with the majority of those funds will be provided to our housing counseling affiliates to do the important work that they do. In the last 6 months, or I should say in the first 6 months of 2020, our network assisted 4,309 households. And of those 4,309 households, 632 families purchased a home, and 139 families were able to save their homes from default. And it's important to point that out because, of course, as we all know, that with shelter-in-place orders and starting in March, it meant that our organizations had to very quickly pivot from doing in-person counseling at their offices to providing virtual counseling via telephone or computer. So being able to do those things and continue the high numbers that we have in our network, I have to give kudos to all of our housing counseling affiliates and all of the housing counseling agencies across the state of Illinois for being able to quickly pivot and continue providing those great services. And I also just want to acknowledge again Wanda, Jennifer, and Vivian, because they have worked very hard to help out those organizations as they've made that transition. Next slide, please. I'd also like to talk a little bit about our HUD training. As you know, that training is very important to Housing Action Illinois, and we've been doing a lot of training over the last several years for housing counseling organizations. We received late in 2019 an award with our partners, the National Stabilization Corporation, a HUD training award so that we could provide training to housing counselors on a national basis. And just as we were kicking off those trainings in February and March of 2020 is when COVID-19 hit. So we quickly pivoted to add additional trainings to what we had planned to help organizations transition to virtual training. We added additional trainings regarding rental counseling so that many counselors or many counseling organizations that had not provided housing rental counseling previously would be able to do that, since we were seeing so many folks that were concerned about evictions. And we also continued providing trainings for individual certification to help housing counselors meet the August 1st, 2020 individual certification deadline. Luckily enough, because of this pandemic, the HUD has agreed to extend the deadline, or has extended the deadline to August 1st, 2021, which means that we will continue to work with housing counselors through the provision of our online study group to help more counselors take and pass the individual certification exam. Next slide, please. I'd also quickly like to talk about the Community Revitalization Challenge. As many of you are aware, that the Community Revitalization Challenge is designed to build the capacity of organizations to do community and economic development in their service areas. We launched our second iteration of CRC or CRC 2.0 in January 2020. We received 18 proposals from 14 different organizations, and we selected 8 of those proposals for what we call the proposal development phase, where we have been working with those organizations to help them put together their proposals, take their ideas really from an idea to a full-blown proposal. 7 of those organizations are still moving forward, and we expect for those organizations to present their full proposals to a showcase of financial institution panelists on November 18th, 2020. In addition to CRC 2.0, we continue to assist organizations that participated in our first Community Revitalization Challenge that happened in 2018. So organizations that are looking for funding for their proposals, we continue to provide capacity building assistance so that they can move those proposals forward. I just briefly want to say in conclusion that as we move forward, we are going to continue increasing the number of trainings that we provide to housing counseling organizations. We are also going to look to increase the number of affiliates for our housing counseling intermediary so that we can help organizations secure more resources and provide more services to their communities. And we'll continue looking at additional ways that we can provide more capacity to all of the organizations that we work with, whether they are developers or housing counselors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning, and thank you for your continued membership.
Great. Thanks, David, Bob, and Willie. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Brandon Grigsby and Stephen Johnson, who also work with our AMERICORPS Vista program. And also to Kristin Ginger, who is our manager of communications and development, who is really the glue that is keeping this conference together. So we're just, we have amazing staff. We also have amazing Vista leaders and Vistas working with us. So I just didn't want to forget to give them a shout out as well. None of this could happen without the entire team. But with that, Kristin Faust, we're really excited that Kristin Faust, who's the executive director of IDA, has joined us today. I think many of you already know Kristin through the outreach she's been doing at IDA since she joined in November of 2019. Feels almost a little bit longer maybe, but pandemic years are longer, or pandemic months. But she was also the president of NHS of Chicago. So again, I'm just really excited to have her here. I think she has a vision of community development and affordable housing and partnership that really will benefit the individuals that we all try to serve through our work and through our members' work throughout Illinois. So Kristin?
Thank you so much, Sharon. On behalf of Governor Pritzker and the Illinois Housing Development Authority Board of Directors and staff, I want to thank everyone here today, and especially Executive Director Lagenza and the Housing Action Illinois membership for the opportunity to speak. And the goal is that I'm going to talk for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and leave some time for Q&A, and I think that's really important. So I'm going to talk a little fast. But I am coming up on almost 1 year at IDA, and before that, as Sharon mentioned, I was Executive Director of NHS, which is a Housing Action Illinois member agency. And in my time there, I really saw the value of having a strong, unified voice to educate and advocate on behalf of affordable housing in Illinois. So I know you're all familiar with this, but you should take a moment and be proud. Over the years, it's Housing Action Illinois' advocacy helped to secure a number of victories that have allowed IDA to pursue our shared goals. One, you helped establish the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I mean, that's just a critical piece of a tool for us. Second, you helped secure $130 million for affordable housing under the 2009 Build Illinois Bond Program, and supporting counseling agencies as they served homeowners throughout the housing crisis. And then more recently, of course, thanks in part to Housing Action Illinois' advocacy in Springfield, Governor Pritzker earmarked $200 million for affordable housing in the Illinois capital budget. And in the coming months and years, IDA will be rolling out several new programs funded by the Capital Bill and designed to create a brighter, more equitable future in Illinois. So in my current role, I really look forward to continuing this work and working with all of you as partners. We can't do it without you, without lenders, developers, service providers, housing counselors, government agencies, community-based organizations. It takes all of us together. And I will just take a moment to say, one of Governor Pritzker's priorities is to make sure that government agencies are working well with other government agencies. So another one of our partners is getting to know and work more closely with agencies such as DHS, which is such an important part of serving the housing continuum. And that's really how Secretary Ho and I have been talking about it. There's a housing needs continuum, and DHS is a really important provider on that continuum, and IDA is an important provider on that continuum. And then there's even some other state agencies that have bits and pieces of that too. And so how do we think about that and make it work better for everybody? So our impact is really only possible because of the support and expertise of our partners. And that's why I'm proud to have a chance to talk to you today. The vision I bring as executive director at IDA is that every household in the state of Illinois can have a decent, safe, and affordable place to live. And that our access to and supply of affordable housing is a driver of population growth and economic growth for the state. And we can talk more about that later, but there's two major initiatives I want to share with you today that I think help get at that. Access to affordable housing is part of economic growth. Access to affordable housing is part of what makes a great neighborhood, community, city, small town, rural area, and state. So there's two initiatives that we've been heavily involved with. The first is about keeping people in place, and that's what one you already heard referenced today, and it's the coronavirus relief. And I just have to say that this has been a, well, Housing Action Illinois was a key part of the state's efforts to get this money. And we, just as you guys were a key part of helping with funds in the last housing crisis, but we all know the numbers, you know, unemployment went up sharply and drastically, people lost jobs, and of course the poor got impacted worse. African American Latino communities have been impacted worse. Unemployment is higher there. Governor Pritzker realized that the health crisis would quickly lead to the housing crisis. And so it was on June 10th of this year that the bill was signed that allocated the $396 million for the federal funds to come into the state and go to IDA, be administered by IDA. So that was June 10th. On August 10th, we opened the application portal for emergency rental assistance. And this is the largest rental and mortgage assistance program of any state in the country. Illinois should feel so good about this, that this is what together we did. And we said, no, this is a priority. We're going to keep people in place. We know the importance of that. So both programs, the rental and the mortgage assistance, were designed using a framework of equity and inclusion, you know, building on the governor's efforts to assist families in the greatest need. Our program websites, our application process, our new call center were all multilingual and designed to encourage participation and ease of use. We partnered with over 60 organizations across the state to help provide information and outreach to communities and people and households to make sure they know about the program. And many of them, I think, are Housing Action Illinois members. So thank you for those partners. And they were there to help folks that didn't have access to technology, because it is a technology-based application platform, It was a massive undertaking. It still is a massive undertaking. Can you imagine a federal program? Normally it takes like 18 months to establish rules and get it going, right? We did it in 60 days. We did, the need was there, as clearly we received 80,000 applications for emergency rental assistance and almost 20,000 for emergency mortgage assistance. The legislature was keen and clear that they wanted at least a third of the money go to disproportionately impacted areas, which are kind of a definition of low income and heavy COVID impacted. You can go to the DECIO website and see the exact definition. So they want at least a third of the money. Well over half the applications have come in from those areas, and we expect there to be no problem. Will be well over a third of the funds will go out to people living in those areas. I'm also pleased to report that assistance is already being dispersed. We are on track to deliver the two programs, 300 million in mortgage and rental assistance, which will in total help 30,000 renters and 10,000 homeowners. I will tell you that for rental, we've already approved 10,000 of the 30,000 applications. And all of them have been reviewed and are now being sent to the mortgage servicers. So that is a great step forward in that. So I just want to emphasize, say thank you for your partnership in this, how important it is in the time of a pandemic, but at any time to keep people in place and in their houses. Evictions and foreclosures are some of the worst outcomes for not just the individuals involved where it's traumatic, but also for the block, the neighborhood, the community, and our society. And so we're really, really pleased to be administering and part of this program. So that's our CRF program. And that's a really huge initiative, important for us. Another initiative that you may not yet have heard of is our Illinois Housing Blueprint. And I do have a short video that I would like to just, if Amina can launch it, that'd be great. Let's see if this works.
As our world changes, our housing needs change too. The Illinois Housing Blueprint is a statewide planning endeavor that will create a vision for the future of housing in Illinois and lay out a plan to achieve it. The Illinois Housing Development Authority is bringing together agencies, organizations, housing experts, and residents from across the state to work together to build a housing blueprint for our future. Through collective participation and collaboration, we are conducting public surveys, listening tours, and creating opportunities for residents to be part of Illinois' future housing plans. Through this initiative, we are sharing knowledge, examining data, and listening to each other's stories to help us all better understand and address the challenges that our communities face. We will build upon our assets and accomplishments and identify opportunities for creating housing that is welcoming and supportive of all people. We look forward to your participation, which will help create better housing programs, policies, and partnerships to serve Illinois residents now and in years to come. Please be part of the plan, take the survey, and join us in creating a housing blueprint for Illinois by visiting ilhousingblueprint.org.
Thank you. Thanks, Amina, for making that work so smoothly. So you heard it right there. You understand what it is. It's a planning process, but it's listening to the voices of residents across the state. It's also, we are collecting all the plans you've already done and you think are good and send them to us, and we're gonna kind of aggregate those. This is how we're gonna create a blueprint for how we do house, make sure that every Illinoisan has access to decent, safe, and affordable housing. That is my aspirational goal. A couple of things I want you all to know about the blueprint process. It's underway right now. One of the key pieces of it is there is a survey, and it's a resident survey, and I'm asking every one of you at this conference to take the survey and also to share it with your organization, with your communities, and It's anonymous, and the results of the survey will add context and help to shape the goals of the blueprint. So we already have a few hundred responses already, but we really didn't want to launch it hard until after the census because we didn't want any confusion there. The census came first. So you'll start to hear more about it, and I hope that you will participate and take the survey yourselves and share it with your organization, your networks, in your communities, on your newsletters, etc. The survey can be accessed in English, Spanish, Polish, and Chinese on our website. Again, the ilhousingblueprint.org. We also have a marketing toolkit for material that you can take and use to share the information in your community, and including social media. And then we're doing listening tours around the state. So we're partnering with local officials and organizations to host listening tours comprised of community meetings. They've been virtual, that provide a chance for residents throughout Illinois to meet and discuss their vision for the future of housing. And so we've already, in the last few months since we kicked this off, completed 7 listening tours around the state, and we have 10 more planned in the upcoming 2 months. If you'd like to learn more about a listening tour, attend one, learn about ways to take part in the plan, visit our engagement page on the Blueprint website. And if you're interested in co-hosting a listening tour for your community, please reach out to our Blueprint team at info@ilhousingblueprint.org. So we every year have to create a big report, and we send it to the legislature. That report pretty much sits on a shelf. It's a really good report. It catalogs what has been done for housing. We want this housing blueprint to be something more, a vision looking forward, a vision of a futuristic vision of how we really are going to make our access to affordable housing as a key asset for our state. And we expect to keep working on the blueprint through the end of the calendar year, and then finish it and complete it and have it presented. And it will go to the legislature and the governor in first quarter of next year. I really hope that you'll consider participating in that as well. And at this moment, I will conclude my remarks and just say once again, thank you for your long-term partnership, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Okay.
So, hi. We do have one question on deck, Kristin. Thank you for your presentation. We have a question that says, please talk about your testimony you recently provided at the Senate Joint Committee and some of the issues that legislators raised with you.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. I would say a fairly broad coalition of the legislators have come together and are really interested in housing. And so about 2 weeks ago, I really went to present to them what IDA does. You know, as a housing finance agency, we're a unique animal. There's one in every state of the country, in every state, but just one. So I explained to them what IDA did and how we finance single family, affordable home ownership, and how we do affordable rental. And Bob probably has, you know, tell me, Bob, what specifically what really spoke to you. But what spoke to me was that they were really interested in what else did we need and what can they do legislatively to do more about affordable housing. And so there's actually another hearing tomorrow where they're drilling down on redlining and the role, you know, that history and what happens today and the role of lenders. And I'm actually going to go back and speak again. But this is a really great moment, I think, to educate and work with the legislative body, because they're really, you know, they seem really interested in figuring out what else they can do. And yes, that was what that was about. I'm excited about what we can do. IDA doesn't typically like proactively sponsor a lot of legislation, but we certainly do occasionally support bills. We certainly are, you know, very hopeful that, well, I am very hopeful. The board hasn't taken official position, but for example, the proposed state low-income housing tax credit, I think would be a great tool. There's other legislative possibilities that we might be able to put forward in the spring session. I'd love to hear your ideas.
So I want to encourage anyone who has a question to put it in the chat. And Kristin, I have one question for you regarding the work that IDA does around affordable home ownership. And maybe if you could maybe talk more about that and how you see that, especially coming from NHS and your perspective coming into IDA around affordable home ownership specifically.
Great, yeah. So one key piece of that is the importance of housing counseling agencies and the lack of funding for housing counseling agencies, and how we're committed to providing ongoing funding to housing counseling agencies across the state. And so with my background, I come in and nobody has to explain to me why that's important. In fact, I'm asking staff, are there other funds that we could find and also direct in this way? So that's one example. IDA does a tremendous amount. So IDA buys mortgages from the bank and mortgage lenders across the state, and most of them are first-time home buyers. We do a great job of buying mortgages from the African American and Latino homeowners, and also we're in rural communities, in mid-sized cities. We're in every county in the state. So we believe that being able to keep the modest income home buyer market going and stable and is an important part of affordable housing. So the one it's almost uncomfortable fact, I don't know if you all realize it, that actually the home buying market is at the strongest it's been in years. IDA's going to do $1 billion in home mortgages this year. We haven't done $1 billion in a really long time. So at the same time that these families that are just like without work, without income, and suddenly stuck, there are the people that do have work. That's that, what do they call that? The K-shaped economic recovery we're in. Interest rates are so low. Our inventory of affordable homes is low too, but if you can find one, people are buying them. So it is a good time to buy a house if you're ready. And we're just helping create more and more opportunities, particularly for our modest income homeowners. And you're going to see some new outreach efforts in African American, Latino, and other underserved communities in the coming months.
So we have a question on deck that's asking, does IDA have any new initiatives to implement incentives for the creation of extremely low income housing for extremely low income residents? So the ELI portion of the population.
So we did just get awarded. We have another resource. I'm blanking on the name of it right now. It will come to me in a minute. So we don't apply a lot of rental assistance, but we do there is a particular program that's administered by HUD that is done on a competitive basis and grants. And it gives us rental vouchers to apply for very low income and tenants. And we have that resource available, and we've run, thank you David Esposito, say Section 811. And we have won 2 rounds previously in a national competition. And that's one of our tools that we're able to help provide very low income units. And we just won a 3rd round. It was unheard of. No other state HFA or state has won 3 in a row. And it speaks to our ability to get the funds out. So I just want you to know, like the staff at IDA, we're always looking for those opportunities and those resources so that we can bring them to the table. So that's one example.
Thank you for sharing that. We have another question regarding the Question of, will IDA release aggregate demographic data, like race and ethnicity, income level data on the ERA and EMA applicants, that's the emergency rental assistance and the emergency mortgage assistance applicants, and who ended up receiving that funding, and will the data be publicly available? Yeah.
So yes, we will. I promise you, we really, really will. We will do that when we have finished processing and getting all the dollars out the door. We expect that on the rental program, that will be in November, that we'll have it all out in November. And on the mortgage, because it involves the mortgage servicers, it will be in December. So yes, we will, we promise. But right now the resources are focused on processing the applications so we can hurry up and get the dollars out the door.
Thank you, Kristin. There's one more question on the table, and I think these are kind of two related questions. So one is, it's a crystal ball question. So we're going to give you the fair benefit of the doubt on your crystal ball abilities. One is, what do you see happening in the market in terms of families in foreclosure? And the second question is, do you see a housing crisis for the LMI clients who are trying to stay afloat or lost jobs for reasons of job loss and that kind of thing? So kind of two related questions. What do you see kind of coming down the pipe?
So right before this presentation, I was just on another call this morning, and Black Knight presents data around the home mortgage and delinquency situation. And you know, there are some bright lights, which is that the delinquency rates are already falling. They did not get as high. They happened faster than in the last housing crisis, but they didn't get as high. We don't know where we're going to be 6 months from now is the problem, those delinquency rates are coming down. And so I think that is good. That is really good. Are there still going to be people that are at risk of losing their house? Yes. And so again, we're pushing really hard in Congress in Washington for more funds to, you know, that there'll be another round of ERA, EMA, because we really do want to keep folks in there. So I am very concerned, but I am people are amazingly resourceful. People are starting to get jobs again, different jobs, part-time jobs, etc. I know it's not the same. I know it's not good enough. So we have to be prepared to deal with, I think, a crisis, but I just think we need to customize it for what the facts are telling us this time. It's different than the 2008 crisis, and build off of what we learned there. That's, yeah. I'm an optimist by nature, so I just am. It will take all of us working together.
Well, I want to thank you, Kristin. We have one late coming. Oh my goodness, we have, oh no, Kristin Ginger chatted out what's next, but we have a late coming. Has any rental or mortgage applications been paid as of yet?
Yes, so rentals have gone out. Yes, so landlords are receiving payments for renters that have applied. Yes.
And the mortgage application is closed. Is that correct?
We think that the first mortgage payments will go out by the end of next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Kristin. Thank you for being with us and your leadership. I know I wish we all had better crystal balls, but it's really just a matter of being prepared, working in collaboration. And I would just really encourage people to participate in the Illinois Housing Blueprint, because this is our chance to articulate our vision, the work that we've been doing year after year on what we would like to see Illinois be doing around affordable housing and ending homelessness, because they're linked, right? As Kristin said, there's a continuum here. So please join me in thanking Kristin Faust for joining us. So however we can do that virtually these days. I just wanted to highlight a few really quick things that came up before. AmeriCorps Vista, if you're interested, reach out to Willie, Brandon, or Stephen. Bob texted out around the Fair Tax Campaign, something we're working on. We also are working on CRA or Community Reinvestment Act reform. If you're interested in that, please reach out to Sheila. And the census, the US 2020 census, which Kristin Faust mentioned, the deadline is actually tomorrow. It changed. So if you haven't completed the census or you know people who haven't, tomorrow is the last day. So please do reach out to your network. So that's it for me and for Housing Action staff. Thank you for being members. And I would like to just turn it back to Darsonia to close us out formally.
Okay, so by show of thumbs, can you hear me? Something, okay. By show of thumbs, I'm making a motion to adjourn.
Can we do that by consensus, everyone?
Yes.
Or maybe by signing off. I think that that's what people are leaving by consensus.
Okay, all righty, there you go.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Darsonia, Nicole,
Thank you.
on all of our members. See you at 12:30, which is our next Midday Connections.